Welcome back to No Limit Drag Racing 2.0. I thought I'd finally jump back on and try the recently added import cars. I'm going to try and make setups on all of the cars that have been added if I can and do get time, but I'll probably start off with the main ones. So I've got the Civic set up here. I'm thinking I'll probably do the GTR next, but this particular one's doing around low 5.6s, which I think is around the best time on 1.9.9 for the Civic. And as per usual, I'm just going to run through all of the upgrades first of all, so make sure you copy everything exactly. And then onto the tuning setup, where I'm also going to go through a couple things you can tweak, because as I've said previously, the game does react slightly differently depending on the phone you're using. So the main thing here is just going to be make sure you copy exactly the parts I'm using and every single tuning area exactly the same, because even one click different could result in the setup not working. So that's that. Let's get right into the upgrades first of all. So first of all, we're going to start off with the upgrades in the engine section. Simple here, just max out everything to the best upgrade possible. Obviously, we just want as much power as possible with this setup because we are going for the best time. Then onto intake, fully upgrade the intake, fully upgrade the exhaust, and then I've gone with a turbo for this setup, so just fully upgrade that one. As I've said in previous videos, you can use all four power adders and get the same time, but they do react slightly differently, so you always want to use the same one if you're copying a setup, so make sure you do use the turbo for this one. And then I've just gone for hood exit exhaust. It doesn't actually make any difference on that one, you can pick any of the four if you want. On to transmission, fully upgrade the transmission, just making sure here that it's the 6-speed, and then maxed out clutch and flywheel. Onto suspension, fully upgrade the front and rear brakes, same with the front suspension and rear suspension. Now the axle config, there is a bit of a trick with this car. You're probably going to notice on your screen that it's locked on the second upgrade to start with, and you can't actually upgrade it on this page. Now you are going to need to upgrade it instead through the tuning setup page near the end, which is a bit of a quirky feature. I don't know why they've done that, it was probably just a glitch and they didn't mean it. So just leave it on the second upgrade for now, because you're probably not going to be able to upgrade it unless you already have it maxed out. Then onto the frame, fully upgrade the roll cage. Wheelie bar we don't need for this setup, so leave that one out. Max the weight reduction and the weight transfer, and then I've not bothered with the parachute. This is just entirely cosmetic. You can put it on if you want, but it doesn't actually make any difference. It says it adds stability, but I've really not noticed any difference to the times by not using it. Then onto computer, nitrous tuning I've got fully upgraded here. You don't need that, I just do it out of habit when I'm going through and fully upgrade everything, so don't max that out. You don't actually need it because we're not using nitrous. Launch controller fully upgraded, same with the fuel controller, timing controller and the boost controller. Then finally onto tyres. This is the most important section, and a bit different with this car obviously because it is front wheel drive, which I've not done before, which is where this setup is slightly going to differ as well from previous ones. So just making sure the rear tyre, I've actually put it on slick, which I've only just realised, which you don't need to do. You could just put it on street compound if you wanted, but just making sure here you put the exact same tyre size. So 24 on the height, 6 on the width and 16 on the diameter. Then the front, very important as well, make sure this is exactly the same. So 24 on the height, 10.5 maximum width and 13 on the diameter, making sure that of course is slick because normally that will be set to street to start with. So just make sure you copy both of those tyres exactly the same. That's probably the key area in the upgrades. So that's everything for the upgrade section. Now we'll move on to the tune setup. Moving on to the tune setup, as per usual, I want to start off with the computer section. Reason being is the limiter RPM. You want to make sure that's set to 10,000 off the bat, or you're not going to be able to adjust the gear ratios properly. So just make sure that's 10k. The shift light RPM is just preference. I always like to put it at 9,600 because that's about in the middle of where you want to shift depending on the gears, because you want to shift earlier for the lower gears and then later for the later gears, but 9.6 is about in the middle of both. And then delay box, this is preference as well. I've just got it set up for the Pro tree at 0.055. Just set that to 0 if you want to react to the green light, or adjust it yourself. I do have a video on the delay box which you can see in the top right hand corner if you want a tutorial on adjusting that for each light. Then fuel rate and timing, you'll see it says perfect tune is installed in the top right hand corner. You just want to make sure you have your own perfect tune installed. You can't copy my numbers, it won't work. So making sure you have your own one. You can either buy the strip car, which will come with the perfect tunes installed, or for 300 gold, equip them yourself. Boost, simply max boost at every RPM there, 30. Then we want to go into transmission. We've gone with 315 first, then 207, 152, 119, 095, 076, and 351 for the final drive. You can see the speeds on the left there as well. This is one area you can adjust if it's not quite working on your device. So if you find the wheels are spinning too much in first gear, you can lower that number of first gear, which will make the gear longer. So maybe try something like 311. And then the opposite, if the wheels aren't really spinning at all and the car's bogging down, then you can increase that number and make the gear shorter. So try something like 319. It is a bit of trial and error, so just make small adjustments, do a run, see if it works. If not, go back and change it again. But just try off the bat with just my numbers and see what happens. It should work pretty well on most devices straight away. Suspension, very simple setup for this car. I was expecting a bit more when I tried these new cars out, but it is very easy to be honest. So just all the way low on the clearance. Stiffness, we have all the way soft, so 34,000 on the front, 20,000 on the rear. Bump, 1,000 all the way down. Rebounds, all the way at the top, 7,000 on the front, 7,000 on the rear. Now this is the section you're going to notice. It's going to prompt you to install the coilovers in the top right. I'll put a screenshot on screen now. This is what I was mentioning previously about the axle config, where you couldn't upgrade it in the upgrade section, but you can do it here. So just click on that prompt when it comes up on the screen. On to extension. This is just visual really, but I've gone minus 0.24 on the front just so it's not, the wheels aren't sticking out the bumper, sticking out the bonnet or hood for the Americans as much as possible. And the rear I've just gone with 0.1. Camber, this is just visual, it doesn't seem to make any difference to the performance, but I've just gone 0 front and 0 rear. On to the wheelie bar, we don't have installed so you can't do anything there. Weight, very simple, all the way to the front. It is front wheel drive, so we just want all the weight on the front wheels. Computer we've been through already, and nitrous isn't installed, so just make sure you go through everything there, make sure it's exactly the same. As I said, any small difference and it will react slightly differently. Give it a few goes, and then if it's not quite working, try adjusting the gear ratios is the main one like I said. So that's it for the setup, and I'm just going to quickly run through my best 5.6 run with this car for you. Lastly, getting on to my best run, which is a 5.64 I think. Key thing here as per usual, setting the tyres to 125, that seems to be the best area. 124 works sometimes as well. Then as you can see I'm using the Pro tree, which is what I set the delay box to, so I'm going to be reacting on the amber lights. And then main thing really is just watching where I change gear. You want to short shift first to second quite early. Same with second to third, and then gradually shifting later and later as you go through the gears. So maybe watch that a couple times, 2-3 times, and see the best shift points, because you do need to be quite accurate with the shifting. That makes a big difference on the timing. And as you can see there, quite a good 60 pull time, which is the main thing on this car, 0.751. And then, yeah, a 5.642. So that's it from me. Drop a like if you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time.